So, in this rather short video, I'm going to talk about the Mare Jivari, which is a mysterious location somewhere in Teyvat, but it's almost certainly supposed to be located somewhere in Natlan, which is also why I chose to talk about it now. I'll talk about everything I know about the place, but please keep in mind that especially for this topic, there are a lot of speculations thrown around, and not much is very clear about this place, since a lot of lore possibly refers to it, or has references to it, but in many cases we just can't be sure. So please just be aware that I'm only trying to include the information that's confirmed to revolve around it. So this video is less of a theory or speculation, and more a lore summary. And as I always say, this is just my interpretation of the lore, so please don't be mad at me if I miss something that you find important, but rather please tell me about it in the comments down below. Also, I won't talk about the real life origins of the name Mare Jivari, but you can look it up if you want, as there are some interesting possible details regarding that. But with that out of the way, let's get to the start of the video. So as I already stated at the very beginning, Mare Jivari is highly speculated to be located somewhere in Natlan, or at the very least, we can be 100% sure that it has close ties to Natlan and its past heroes. From the sources such as the loading screen tips, some artifact sets like the Lava Walker set, and some character voice lines, we know that Mare Jivari is supposed to be this empty space according to Nahida, who also says that it's a place beyond her own reach. But this is somehow contradicted in the rest of the lore, because according to other sources it contains a lot of flames, and it's described as, for example, a sea of fire, the Flaming Sea, or a sea of ashes where the wind doesn't blow. This could technically make it empty, but I'm sure most people just imagined it as some kind of burning wasteland, rather than just a completely empty field that's on fire for some reason, and the lore supports that conclusion as well. So the Lava Walker artifact set talks about the sage, who is surprisingly called the Lava Walker. The sage from this artifact set description wore a flower as he walked to the Sea of Fire, which is later revealed to be the Mare Jivari. He survived his journey through the Mare Jivari, but eventually, after a long time, the flames burned him to ashes. Other people followed the flower's flickering light to the very edge of the Mare Jivari, and there they found these blooming flowers, but the sage was nowhere to be seen. We also know from the same set that people often hear screams coming from the Mare Jivari because of a feather that the sage plucked from a phoenix that sings amid the flames. No one knows if these screams are the song of the bird or the size of the sage, so this implies that the phoenix may still be living in the Mare Jivari, which is interesting because we could see a phoenix for a bit in the Ignition teaser, and it was implied to have a connection to Mavuika. We'll probably learn about said phoenix in the future. The phoenix was supposed to be worshipped in the past, but I don't think we have seen any of this in Natlan so far, so maybe that's just a thing of the past. The Lava Walker also crafted an hourglass containing burning sand to mark the passing of time. Sadly, even though he didn't fear the flames of Mare Jivari, he couldn't quench the flames of time. This line is actually quite important because there are several lines throughout the lore that suggest that the Mare Jivari has some connections to time as a concept in Genshin, and maybe to Istarot and possibly even Venti as a fragment of the Thousand Winds. Even though this line could just mean that he eventually got old, I still think it could be important. The goblet from the same set probably isn't very important for the purpose of this video, but then there is the circlet, which the sage wore as he traveled through the Mare Jivari. It is actually created from the Crimson Agate to resist the flames. Yes, the same one we can find in Dragonspine. Maybe these agates from Dragonspine can somehow resist the flames of Mare Jivari, or maybe just any flames, it's hard to say. Anyway, since we know that these agates are connected to Durin's blood, I wonder if it has something to do with the power of the Abyss, and if other things corrupted by the Abyss have similar properties. From the Wanderer's Troop artifact set, we know that the troop set foot even in the blazing Mare Jivari, but at that time it was a very different place from what it's supposed to be today, but even then it was described as blazing in the description. The talking stick is a weapon from the Battle Pass that talks about the history of Tenoch and other past heroes of Natlan. We know that Tenoch and his companions fought against the turbid black tide caused by the cataclysm, and the place where they fought should at the very least be connected to Mare Jivari, because the description states that Compore, one of the heroes of that time, foresaw Tenoch's heroic end, and how the place that would later be known as Mare Jivari was born. I think it's safe to assume that these two are connected, given the wording of these lines. Kenichi's story quest connects to the lore of the talking stick as well. In his story quest that came out in version 5.0, Enjo finally returned and talked about how he was doing research on the Mare Jivari, which further proves its importance, since Enjo is the kind of guy who focuses on important lore of Teyvat. Kenichi said that he played a major part in Natlan's history, and that his ancestor Burkina once fought alongside other Natlan's heroes in there, which kind of confirms my suspicions from earlier, but he mentions that he himself has actually never been there. Other interesting information can be found in Kenichi's character story, where he also talks about it. He says that he read a book or a text that described how in Natlan there was a place that was rendered desolate by the war between humans and monsters. Plants withered, earth was scorched, drifting ash blotted out the sun, and air choked with phlogiston, and this land later became known as the Mare Jivari. The mention of phlogiston, but not only that, basically confirms that the Mare Jivari should indeed be located somewhere in Natlan. A big part of what we know about the Mare Jivari actually comes from Venti's story quest, which focuses on an adventurer called Stanley. His friend that is still alive in Mondstadt and mourns his death told us a story about Stanley and how he once traveled to the Mare Jivari. In a dialogue with Stanley's friend, Hans Archibald, it was mentioned that this so-called Ashen Sea is supposed to be located on the other side of the continent, which means that it could be located maybe more on the west of Natlan. Apparently there is nothing but silence, and there is a vortex created by some kind of monster. Maybe that said monster is the phoenix mentioned in the Lava Walker artifact set. Unfortunately, Stanley died while saving his friend from some kind of monster, and after that he took on Stanley's name so that he won't be forgotten, and to keep his memory alive. In this quest, Vent used his power to somehow bring back some past memories, or something of that sort, and showed Stanley's friend basically a vision of the past. Some people interpret this as sort of time manipulation, which could be because of Vent's ties to Istaroth, the god of time, or it could also be connected to some kind of unique qualities of the Mare Jivari. But well, that's about all I know about this place, and the rest is just some baseless speculations and wishful thinking. There are also some theories and speculations about Mare Jivari being the place where Bennett was first found, which is kind of implied in his character's story, but that's about it. If I were to place my bets on what it's going to be, then I would expect it to be an area similar to areas like Enkanomiya or the Chasm. I don't mean this lore-wise or aesthetically, but more in terms of how Hoyoverse will present it to us. But there have also been multiple speculations about it just being a domain, so who knows. I am just hoping that we will learn more about it soon, since we learned surprisingly little about it even though we are in Natlan now. Well, that will be it for this short video. I hope you enjoyed it and that you maybe learned something new. I decided not to do the livestream quick lore analysis this time, as I think that I can provide more interesting information when I'm interpreting some of the lore, rather than theorizing about future content, because that just simply isn't my thing. But that's about all I wanted to say, so please take care and I will hopefully see you in the next one.